Hi everyone, welcome to week 6. It was great working with you last Friday for you to be able to come together and finish off your expressionism tasks, and it was fantastic some of the results that we got. Now we're moving on to pop art. Now what pop art is a movement that originated in the 1950s and 60s, came out of probably Britain and America mainly, and what the artists did is they steered away from things like expressionism and some of the other movements going around at the time, and they looked at common elements within society. So this involved things like simple tins of soup, comics, hamburgers, even a lettuce and mayo sandwich. So really, really common household items, and they tried to make heroes of them. They tried to see the art in them, which made some really, really interesting, colourful, bold artworks. Artists like Andy Warhol came to fame, Roy Lichtenstein, who made some prints that were based on comic book art, and those sort of artists we'll have a look in coming lessons. But what we're going to do is a little bit different. We're going to do a contemporary pop art inspired piece that is based around an everyday item in a way, not everyday for everyone, but we're going to look at sushi. So the other class, the other 9 art specialist class, is going to be looking at making a huge sculptural hamburger, which is about 1 meter wide. What we're going to do is a collaborative piece, and we're going to make pieces of sushi which are about 60 centimeters wide. So you're aiming at making a 60 centimeter, long piece of sushi, and it can be a range of different sushis. We want a plate of sushi that looks really, really neat and is arranged in such a way that we have a whole lot of different types of sushi on display. So some of the things that you need to consider is how you're going to make it, the construction, the pattern, etc. So we'll get to that in just a moment. So sushi, made up of a range of different things. You can have sushi with a rice base, and then it's got a piece of salmon over the top. You can have sushi which has maybe squid or other seafood over the top, and it's lightly cooked. So it's very, very simplistic food, but also very textural and almost an art form in itself. So the cooks who make sushi really take a lot of time in the presentation. And you'll notice that when you look at the texture here, I've got some sushi paper here. So the yakinori, I'm not sure that I pronounced that right. And it's not actually yaki, it's quite good nori, but nonetheless, in a bargain as well at the market, $3.50 for 10. Have a look at for that. Here, when you have a look at that though, the rice paper, the seaweed itself has an amazing little texture to it. You're going to get material and a whole range of things that we've made, and you're going to be able to make that yourself. You might add paint to it, you might add sequins, you might add a range of different textures onto that. But before we can get to that stage of actually creating our sushi, you've got to quickly research different types of sushi and write them down. So a whole list of different types of sushi. Now you're going to work in groups of 2 for this, because we want 12 or so different pieces of sushi within the class. So you're working in groups of 2, and then together you're coming up with a whole list of different types of sushi. Get on your laptops, have a look at different sushi and think, oh yeah, that's going to look great. I reckon we could reproduce that. And then quickly you're going to put it on the board. Now if anyone else has already taken it, you have to go back and find another type of sushi. So I don't want to see 12 California rolls or 12 sushis with rice on the bottom and salmon on the top. So I want them to look different so that we have a really interesting array, really striking piece of soft sculptural sushi. Now you might be asking yourself, well, how are we going to make it? Well, there's a number of different techniques. We're going to have a residential artist who happens to be my mother, who's extremely good at sewing, using the sewing machine, but also hand sewing, who's going to give people a few tips, including myself, on how to sew bits and pieces together. But before you do that, you choose your sushi, and then you need to create a paper pattern. So you can start all this today when I'm not here. So you get online, find your sushi, whack it on the board, make sure no one else has taken the design, and then you go back to your group of 2 and you work out, okay, what are the shapes involved? So if we've got a piece of salmon, you need to think, okay, what does that salmon look like? How long is it going to be? Create a paper pattern of it. So you might need to get some butcher's paper. I might get Miss Hall maybe to help you. You can duck across the way and get Miss Hall and see whether she can roll out some cheap paper or even newspaper to start with. You make your paper pattern by drawing the outline of it, and then you're going to have it double-sided in most cases, unless it's a simple sheet. So maybe with the nori that you're producing there, it might just be one sheet that wraps around, but you're still going to work out what that looks like. So it's like packaging design. You need to think, well, how long does it need to be? How wide does it need to be to curl around and meet at the other side perfectly so it can be sewn together? The rice, how are you going to make that rice so it looks like individual grains of rice, but obviously it's scaled up because it's 60 centimeters long, and I don't think sushi normally comes that big. So there's a number of things to work through. One, you've got the research that you've got to find out all the different types of sushi. Then you find the best quality image possible. Once you've found the sushi that you can design and no one else has taken that design, find the best image possible. Then you need to create a paper pattern. From there, we're actually going to create a soft sculptural sushi piece. And as I said, there's a whole range of different ways that you could make that. It might be green material that you add little bits of paint on, little sequins, etc. If you're trying to create little bits of caviar or fish roe, whatever you want to call it, then you might use little beads, or there might be a range of little things that you find. So buttons perhaps. It's only limited by your imagination. So when it finishes, it should be displayed. It's going to be displayed probably in the library area, maybe under a stairwell. We're deciding on a couple of spots within the school. And it could look really, really striking. The other class is going to be having their big hamburger. We're going to be having our sushi plate. And I think it's going to be a really, really excellent visual piece. But you need to do the work now to try and get it to that stage where you've selected a great image, a great design, start working on your pattern so that when our fabric artist comes in on Friday and gives some hints, you're already thinking from your own pattern perspective on how you can join, and you can ask her how she would put it together, and she can give you some ideas, because I haven't got heaps of idea when it comes to sewing, and I'm going to be taking the back seat and she's going to be the expert advisor there. I can give aesthetic maybe suggestions on how you can render the surface and different ideas and different bits and pieces there, but you're going to work in your group of two, and you also need to consult with other people in the class to make sure that your design is going to look like a part of the class design. It's no good having one really rough, edgy piece of sushi and then the next one looks really, really smooth. It's going to look like a bit of a mismatch. It's not really going to look like one unified plate. So we're going to have to work together, but the first step is let's find our piece of sushi today, get a really good quality image and start working on the patterns. And then I'll be back on Wednesday to help continue the momentum so that on Friday, when our professional creative fabric artist comes in, that she can help you on the actual application and how we're going to put it all together. Have a great lesson, work well, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye.